Denzel Washington is pretty outspoken about what the media presents to the world, and the fact that it hides things from people that should definitely be brought to light. So it's no real wonder that he's upset that The Sound of Freedom has been banned. This movie is a very raw depiction of child trafficking, and many people are of the opinion that it should absolutely be shown just to raise awareness about the issue. The Sound of Freedom shines a light on the darkest parts of Hollywood, and because of that, they're largely turning a blind eye to this movie, but not Denzel. So what is this movie about? Why is it stirring up so much controversy? And why is Denzel Washington so mad about it being banned? Everybody loves Denzel Washington, who not only gives award-winning performances, but is also a chill, down-to-earth guy who isn't stuck up, and has a habit of telling things as they are, usually without being overly mean or dramatic about the situation. And he's been speaking up about the industry and their shady tactics for a while now. To be clear, he hasn't come right out and said anything about The Sound of Freedom, but people have dug up and dusted off a lot of his old interviews, and they're all about the Hollywood elite and how the media is responsible for what they choose to report.
If you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you do read it, you're misinformed.
He says that it becomes a race for media outlets to post first, regardless of whether they post the truth.
So what a responsibility you all have to tell the truth, not just to be first, but to tell the truth.
In 2017, he participated in a roundtable discussion with several Hollywood directors and other actors. Mel Gibson was present as well, and he criticized movie producers and actors for being out of touch.
When people say, oh, the difficulty of making a movie, I'm like, let's send your son to Iraq. That's difficult. It's just a movie. It's like, relax. I don't play that precious nonsense. Oh, we're moving over. Get out of here. You know, your son got shot in the face. That's difficult. Making a movie is a luxury. It's a gift. It's an opportunity, and most importantly, it's a gift. Obviously, everybody here is talented enough to do that, but don't get it twisted. It's just a movie. It ain't that big a deal.
He's also said that Hollywood has a tendency to blow some issues completely out of proportion while ignoring others.
Here's the thing you got to remember. When you talk about racial and you talk about discrimination, maybe, what if he just wasn't good enough? See, it's so easy to just say, oh, it's because of this. Because of racism. Oh, I didn't get the job because of that. Maybe you weren't good enough. Maybe, like his wife says, you were just too old. She says, why don't you just admit it?
He's also spoken up about the industry forcing actors into roles that go against their morals or values and are outside their comfort levels.
I got a part in a movie in 1986. I called it They Couldn't Kill. Oh. Yeah, he was supposed to be a white woman, and they tried to electrocute him, but it didn't work. They tried to hang him, and they tried to do all this stuff, and there were some Jewish people in the audition, and I said, yeah. They said, no, it's funny. It's like they hang them and then they can't. I said, yeah, like you bring some Jewish people into a room and they think it's a shower, but it's gas. Oh. And they said, right. I said, right, that ain't funny. So to me, it wasn't funny about putting a rope around my MFing neck either. I made a point. The guy was like, who the hell is this little talking like this?
Yikes, of course he turned that role down, which was fortuitous because his next role in Cry Freedom earned him an Oscar nomination. But it not only showed that he wasn't gonna take any old role that producers offered him, but also the weird stuff that actors are asked to do. While Denzel hasn't spoken about The Sound of Freedom, we can guess from his past interviews what he thinks about it. Washington has actively worked with organizations to try to help children. But one actor who has spoken about it is Mel Gibson. Now, Mel Gibson has gone on some pretty off-the-wall and controversial rants in the past.
You are provocatively dressed all the time with your fake boobs you feel you have to show off in tight outfits and tight pants.
Gibson is promoting The Sound of Freedom pretty hard.
One of the most disturbing problems in our world today is human trafficking, and particularly the trafficking of children. Now, the first step in eradicating this crime is awareness. Go see Sound of Freedom.
Here's a quote from an interview Denzel did about how pervasive the vile actions of the Hollywood elite are. But trust me, there's so much more lurking behind those velvet curtains. And if the truth ever sees the light of day, it'll send shockwaves through the entire world. leaving everyone stunned to their core. And that's probably true. As one of his fans pointed out, the fact that the film has been rejected by Hollywood may be an indication that it depicted the truth so vividly that it made them uncomfortable. This fan said, "We all know that those that look the least likely to be a criminal of massive portions are the worst. The more money they have, the easier it is to cover what they do. Just look at every psycho in history. They were all kind, upstanding, moral citizens." So what's so controversial about this movie? People either love it or hate it. Half of the population seems to think it's a really important movie and that Hollywood hotshots are trying to get it discredited, while the other half think it's nothing but hogwash and conspiracy theories. The biggest problem that many critics have with the movie is that they say it sensationalizes child trafficking. That's to say, they claim it exaggerates something that's very real. It shows children being taken by complete strangers. And while that does happen, the idea that traffickers target victims they don't know has been debunked by Polaris, which is the organization that runs the US National Human Trafficking Hotline. So it stands to reason they know a thing or two about the subject. They also say that many survivors have been trafficked by romantic partners, including spouses, and by family members, including parents. Aaron Albright is an attorney who has a lot of experience with trafficking, and recently argued in a Rolling Stone interview that the sensationalism of child trafficking in The Sound of Freedom doesn't help anti-trafficking efforts, but it can actually be harmful. Albright says that when movies depict trafficking as dramatic forms of kidnapping, where the victims are made prisoners, it's hard for people to understand the subtle complexities of real-life trafficking cases, because they more often than not involve things like psychological manipulation and coercion rather than forceful kidnapping. When you have a case of really subtle coercion that's hard to prove and the jury is expecting taken, you're not gonna get a conviction, and that makes it much harder for survivors. The movie studio itself, Angel Studios, has admitted that the things it shows in its movie aren't necessarily true to life in a recent blog post. They said, "It is worth noting that the movie took creative liberties in depicting the different methods of child trafficking. While instances do exist where children are transported in various vehicles, the majority of trafficking occurs through a manipulative grooming process." They also said that in the beginning of the film, real security camera footage is shown depicting various kidnappings. While such incidents do occur in the realm of human trafficking, it's important to recognize that they don't represent the majority. Moviegoers are reporting that theaters are trying to disrupt viewings too.
It's about to start. Just pause it like a second before it goes. Just to let you guys know again, it is gonna get hot. It is gonna be like that throughout the whole movie.
So why should only this one though, not all the other ones?
Because this was assigned in a theater that was smaller, unfortunately, due to high demand in an audience.
It's interesting that many celebrity activists haven't had anything to say about The Sound of Freedom, and that lends a bit of credibility to the theory that someone in Hollywood is trying to keep it under wraps. And former President Trump has had this to say about the movie. Sound of Freedom has been a national sensation and a colossal success at the box office. Really big numbers, everyone should see it. This is a very important film and very important movie, and is a very important documentary all wrapped up in one. It's really about an issue that has to be discussed. He actually arranged a screening of the movie at his New Jersey golf club on July 19th. So what do you think about The Sound of Freedom? Do you think it exaggerates the issue too far? Have you seen it yet? What did you think if you did? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.